Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Arbab, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, so, and can you see the whiteboard? So today we will continue from where we left in the last class. And in the last class, I'll give you a quick recap of what we did and how the thing that we are doing in today's class is related to what we did in the last class, right? Walaikum assalam, Arbab. Okay, now in the last class, we talked about national income statistics, right? Now, what is national income? We discussed all of this in a lot of detail, and we said national income is the total income of all the people who are living in the country, right? Now, to measure that, to measure the national income, we need to have some statistics, right? How to record income of all the people who are living in a country. And that is basically broadly defined as national income statistics, right? So the accounting or the calculation of the total income of all the people who are living in a country is known as national income statistics. And for that, we talked about that there are four most commonly used indicators or statistics that we calculate, and those include gross domestic product, right? So we'll do a quick recap here of the last class, what we did, and then move forward, right? So that is known as gross domestic product. Then there is net domestic product, right? Then you have gross national product, right? And net domestic product. Just give me a second, let me quickly write this down, right? So we are revising what we did in the last class, and now in today's class we'll move forward from here, right? So in yesterday's class we talked about what are national income statistics. So the first thing that you need to know, that what is national income, you already know, right? National income is the total income or the aggregate income of all the people who are living in a country or who belong to a country, right? Now to measure that, which basically means how do we measure national income? We measure national income through national income statistics, right? There are four indicators or four statistics that we can calculate for national income, which includes gross domestic product, the short form of which you already know, GDP. Then another is net domestic product, that is NDP, right? Then you have gross national product and net national product, right? Now, these are the four statistics that you use. Net national product, which is, gross national product, which is GNP, right? And the last of all is your net national product, which is NNP, right? Okay, now the difference between, let's first talk about GDP and GNP, right? We did discuss this in quite a lot of detail in the last class, and we said that in the case of gross domestic product, it is the total income of all the people who are living in a country. Right, yeah, sure. You said B and D. You said, let me read it again. B and D. Okay, yes, we are coming to it. We are coming to it, right? Now, think about it, Abba. So the thing is that gross domestic product, first of all, we are discussing the difference between gross domestic product and gross national product. So gross domestic product is the income of all the people who are living within the borders of a country. Gross domestic product includes income, or it is the estimate of the value of goods and services produced within the borders of a country, within the borders of a country. So within Pakistan, whether there is an international business or local business, we don't care. As long as that business is operating in Pakistan, that would be part of Pakistan's GDP within the borders of Pakistan, right? So this is what GDP is. In the case of gross national product, this is not how it works. The way it works is that we look at which of the goods and services are produced by Pakistani businesses. I repeat, in the case of in the case of gross national product, we look at the value of goods and services or the income earned only by Pakistanis, regardless of whether they are living in Pakistan or in some other country of the world, right? Only calculates income of Pakistani nationals, regardless of wherever they are living in the world, which means that we will not include the income of foreigners who are living in Pakistan. Only calculates income of Pakistani nationals, right? Regardless of their place of residence, regardless of their place of residents, right? Is it simple, right? We did talk about this, right? So it will not include, in the case of gross national product, you will not include the, the value of goods and services that are produced by Toyota company. Why would you not include? Right? Even though that Toyota company is manufacturing in Pakistan, but Toyota is not a Pakistani company. Toyota is not a Pakistani company. So the output or the value of goods and services that Toyota produces in Pakistan would be part of Pakistan's gross domestic product, but that would not be part of Pakistan's gross national product. Right? Does it make sense? Is this clear? Similarly, if there is a Pakistani business that is operating in, let's say, Pakistani nationals who are working and running a business in USA, UK, and so on, right? So that would not be part of gross domestic product, because that is not within the borders. Stick to the definition, students. You will never get confused. That is not within the borders of Pakistan. But that Pakistani business, Pakistani business that is located in a foreign country would be part of gross national product. Why? Because those are Pakistanis who are operating that business in any part of the world. So you have to calculate the income of Pakistani nationals only, regardless of their place of residence. Okay, now it's a very simple difference between gross and net, right? So think about this. Let me explain you that. So gross domestic product is basically the total value of goods and services produced, right? We did talk about this. Gross domestic product is the total value of goods and services produced within the borders of Pakistan. As simple as that, right? Now, this is different. This is different from net domestic product. This is different from net domestic product. And the difference is of depreciation. Now, you have to listen to this carefully. Depreciation is what? Depreciation is the wear and tear. What is depreciation? Depreciation is the wear and tear, right? Every business is using some assets, right? What are assets? Assets are the resources that you're using to produce a good or service, right? So giving you a very simple example. So Mega Lecture provides online classes, and Mega Lecture has an office. In that office, Mega Lecture is using, using furniture. Mega Lecture is using, if let's say Mega Lecture owns the building. If not, then obviously it has some furniture, some computers, some laptops, some cell phones, blah, 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 blah. Right? Now, every year those assets depreciate in value, as we say, which means that they are decreasing in value. Think about this. So if I give you a very simple example, Arbab, so when someone buys a new car, let's say for 20 lakh rupees, after 1 year of use, will the car be of same value? Will the car be of same value? So if you bought a new car today and you use it for a year, it will not be, right? No, prices are increasing in Pakistan for cars. Prices are increasing in Pakistan. That's why the prices do not go down. But otherwise for any normal asset, or think about furniture, or think about laptop, or think about phones, right? Whenever you use something, the value obviously decreases. The building that you're using will have a life of 10 years, 20 years, obviously, right? Because everything is limited life, right? So let's say the total amount of depreciation, the total amount of wear and tear. So let's stick to this example first. So if you bought a car for 20 lakh rupees and after 1 year of usage, it's only worth 18 lakh rupees, then this means that during that 1 year, you have used up 2 lakh of value. During that 1 year, you have used up 2 lakh of value of that product or that asset, right? Now that is depreciation. So when Mega Lecture adds up the wear and tear on all of his assets, that will give you how much value you lost, how much value of assets you lost during that time period, right? So let's say 2 lakh rupees. So let's say 2 lakh rupees, right? That is a depreciation. Right? But this is only for one business of Pakistan. So if we add up the depreciation of all the businesses in Pakistan, that will give you aggregate or total depreciation in the country. So are you getting me? So why are we subtracting that depreciation? Because think about this, that money hasn't been spent to increase the production potential. That money hasn't been spent to increase the production potential. As I was giving you the example, when we sell off our old laptops or whatever, and we buy the new laptops to replace them. When we buy the new laptops to replace something, to replace older laptops, now this is not increasing our production potential. We are just replacing something old which was not workable anymore. Are you getting me or not? Right? So just like saying, think about it. If I have a phone and I replace my phone with a new one, right? So what I'm doing, my older phone was not in good working condition, so I have to replace it. But it's not saying anything that I'm getting better off, in the sense that it's not that I have two phones, or my affordability has increased. Are you getting me? That was just to replace something old. So it's just like saying, if someone has an old car and they replace that with a new car, now the new car would just be good enough for them to commute here and there, to take them to places where they want to go, right? But that's not increasing the car to their household, right? That is just new car replacing the old one that was not workable anymore longer. So you got rid of that and you bought a new one. Does it make sense, above? So similarly, for a country, any money that you have spent to replace older assets is not adding any value. That's not adding any benefit to the country, right? So the simplest way you can differentiate between gross domestic product and net domestic product doesn't account. So this gross things do not account for depreciation, does not account for depreciation, right? So just that's why the word is gross, right? It's total, right? And net is some portion of that. Does not account for depreciation, whereas net domestic product accounts for depreciation on assets. So it would be accounts for depreciation. Any confusion so far, students? Anything that's not clear, anything you want to ask me, right? Arbab, is this clear now? So it's just another way of looking at it. It's just another way of looking at it. Both are national income statistics. Both values can be calculated to estimate how much was the total income earned by people living in Pakistan. But the only difference is that in gross, you do not subtract depreciation. In net, you do subtract depreciation, because this is another way of looking at it. Is this making sense? Okay, is everyone clear? Can we move on? So students, today we have to talk about something very, very important, right? Right. So we did a quick recap of what is national income statistics, right? Why is national income statistics important? Why are national income statistics important? To calculate the growth of a country, right? National income statistics are used to calculate the growth of a country, which shows how fast a country is growing. Right? Let me write that down for you. National income statistics are used to calculate the growth of a country. Most of the times you're using GDP only, because GDP is most commonly used measure, but you can also use other measures. National income statistics are used to measure growth of a country, right? Like how fast the country is growing. And we did talk about GDP per capita and all that. Growth of a country. Okay, now moving forward, students, in today's class, here's the question that I wrote. This is the question that we're about to address. Is GDP a good indicator of development? Now, this is very, very important. We are not talking about is GDP a good indicator of growth. We're not saying is GDP a good indicator of growth. We know it is, right? Because if there's 5% increase in GDP, this shows that compared to last year, this year, our nationals' income, our citizens' income increased by 5%. That is okay, fine. If we compare this with India, let's say if India is growing at 10%, then we can say that India is growing twice as fast as we are. Are you getting me? So if one country has growth rate of 5% and another country has growth rate of 10%, then we can clearly say that the other country with 10% growth is growing twice as fast as the other country, right? So that we know that GDP is a good indicator of growth. But is GDP a good indicator of development? That is what we have to discuss. Students, are you clear? Is everyone clear on this? Please confirm if this is good, only then we'll proceed. Is GDP a good indicator? Did you get my question? Because a lot of times essay questions, exactly same wording of, same wording is used in essay questions a couple of times, where it has asked students, is GDP a good indicator of development, right? Right. So that is exactly what we'll talk about in today's class. Good indicator of good indicator of development, right? Okay, now students, think about this. First thing that you have to ask yourself, that what is development, right? Obviously, to answer this question, you have to ask yourself what is development and what definition did I give you? So what definition did I give you for development? What is development? So what is development? So we did talk about this and we said development is quality of life. Basically, development is quality of life, which means how well off are, how well off or how high is the well-being of people living in that country. Quality of life in any country, right? I mean, that can include a lot of different things. That includes security, whether people have access to basic food, whether people have access to basic healthcare, education, and all that stuff. Exactly. Quality of living standards, quality of life. Very good. Excellent, right? Now, students, is GDP a good indicator of development? Now, you have to listen to me very carefully because this is very, very, very important. Okay. Now, we will talk about all the reasons, right, why GDP is a good indicator of development and why GDP might not be a good indicator of development. Students, are you getting me? Now we are about to divide our screen into, we're about to divide the screen in two parts, right? One part is on one side we'll write, yes, it can be, right? And on the other part, on the side we'll write, no, it is not a good indicator. Okay, now first let's come to the yes part because we can quickly tell why is GDP a good indicator of development. Okay, now students, think about this. Development is not possible without basic income levels. I repeat my question. Think about this. So if people say that in education, Pakistan's education is not that good or Pakistan's healthcare is not that good, I agree, right? Now, what is the solution out of this problem? One could be, one way of looking at it could be that you want higher incomes for your nationals. So when they earn higher incomes, then obviously people can afford better education, better healthcare, and so on and so forth, right? Are you guys getting me or not? So what I'm trying to explain you here, since GDP is an estimate, now I'll be writing some long sentences, but stay with me. Since GDP is an estimate of national income and income is necessary for buying basic necessities, right? We do know this. Even food, right? So food is never free. Governments cannot provide free food to everyone. And income is necessary, is must to buy basic necessities. So higher GDP, facilitates development. So higher GDP, I'm not saying that higher GDP will definitely lead to development, but what I'm saying is that higher GDP would help a country to achieve higher levels of development. How many of you understood this? Now, let me explain you in simple words before we move on. So higher GDP would help a country achieve higher level of development. Okay, now think about this. Students, we know that development is quality of life and it can include anything under the sky, So it can include things like, first things first, whether the people are able to buy basic food, basic healthcare, basic education. So that is one thing that is very important, right? Okay, but apart from that, development also include things like how much is the pollution in that country, how much is a country safe to travel, right? Is a country safe for everyone, like no terrorism or things like that. And then they can include other things, right? How good are the sanitation facilities, How good are the housing facilities? Is electricity available to everyone in the country, or some people in rural areas do not have access to electricity? Blah, 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 right? So it's a long list, right? We'll talk about this, all of that in a bit. So first side, we were talking about this question, is GDP a good indicator of development? And to answer that, we said we'll divide the screen into parts. One would be yes, it can be. And the other one is no, it is not, right? Now, in the yes part, we said since GDP is an estimate of national income, which is the total income of people living in a country, and income is must to buy basic necessities. So higher GDP would help a country achieve higher levels of development, because it's only after people earn some basic income that they will be able to meet their basic necessity, like at least eat healthy food, at least eat 2 times a day, like at least eat 2 or 3 times a day, and so on, right? So that is obviously important. Clean water, to buy clean water, or whatever, right? Exactly. Is everyone clear on this? Students, is everyone clear on this? So no one is denying the fact. Now think about this. Now this is very important, and this will lay the foundation for the everything that we will discuss after this. Right. So income leads to development, right? Income does lead to development, and which means that if you have higher GDP, which is basically the same thing. So I will write this down as GDP slash income, right? So do not get confused, please, right? Because GDP is also the same as income. So GDP slash income does lead to development, but there are so many other factors as well that contribute to development. Students, are you getting me? So income, you can say this as that income is just one of the many factors that contribute to income is just one of the many factors that contribute to development. There's so many other factors that contribute to development, right? Are you getting me? So for instance, development depends on basic education for all, right? Right? Basic healthcare for all, right? So income can solve some of the problems related to development, but not all. And that is what we'll talk about. Basic education for all, basic healthcare for all, right? Are you getting me? And so on and so forth, right? I'll just quickly write this down. Basic healthcare for all, right? And do focus on the language that I'm using here, right? So I'm not talking about advanced healthcare, right? Because obviously government resources are always limited and advanced healthcare might not be possible, but at least the basics should be available to everyone, regardless of whether that person is living in Cholistan desert in Pakistan, or that person is living in Islamabad, Karachi, or Lahore, like bigger metropolitan cities. That should be accessible to everyone. Are you getting me? Basic healthcare for all, clean drinking water, sanitation facilities, right? Blah, 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 blah. The list is never ending, right? Is everyone clear on this? So we are not saying that GDP and income does not help to achieve development. It does. But what about all the other things? We have to also talk about those other things. Clean environment, yes, less pollution and so on. Okay, now students, let's get back here and let's talk about no side, right? So this is the main argument on the yes side, right? But there is a long list for no side. Think about this. Now, my first question to you is, now listen to this question very carefully. If a country is producing